Hello everyone, patching in today's video. It's JMA Friday, so as always on a Friday we have a detailed look at the weather for the month ahead, and this is going to take us into the middle part of August. So we're going into the final month of the summer of 2017 with this update. Been a very good summer so far down in the south. There's been loads of dry, useful weather. At times it's been really hot as well. Never been as good further north. Scotland hasn't had such a good summer so far. We'll see whether there's any sign of things settling down a bit for the north in the month ahead. So we'll start off with the JMA seasonal model and then we'll have a look at the CFS V2. We'll compare both the models and see what they're showing for the month ahead. We're starting off with the JMA, so we've got the 500 millibar heights here broken down into weekly periods. The first week period will take us from today, the 14th, through to the 21st of July. Blue is extrapolating to below average heights, which is low pressure, and the brighter colours, yellows and oranges, are extrapolating to above average heights, which is high pressure. So this is the anomaly from the North Pole view down. The pole is just there, of course, the British Isles is just there. We find that for the week ahead, we've got the Azores high down to our southwest and ridging in to the UK with below average heights up to the north, and we're doing something a bit like that with the flow and the jet stream. So it brings a most unsettled conditions into the north and west. The south and the east get the driest conditions, and it's going to be pleasantly warm in the south too. We go through to the week 2 500 millibar heights anomaly. This takes us from the 21st through to the 28th of July. Above average heights are building. The Azores high is ridging north and into the UK. Below average heights are low pressure being pushed back towards Greenland and Iceland along with the jet stream. So we bring the air in off the Atlantic. This isn't a heat wave type scenario. It's very warm and pleasant, but with the high pressure centre just to west of Ireland, jet streams to the north. We are on the warm side of the jet, but the flow is coming around the high pressure from the Atlantic, which isn't going to be hot. It's not going to be a heat wave type situation, just pleasantly warm and mostly dry as we're going through to the final stages of July. And then we head into the last days of July, into the start of August. This is the week 3 and 4 500 millibar height anomaly taking us from the 28th of July through to the 18th of August, and we find that we've got again above average heights through the Atlantic, ridging into the UK. The jet stream is off up to the north as well, so we're still on the warm side of the jet. It's mostly dry scenario, bear in mind it's weeks 3 and 4, 2 weekly anomalies, so might be a little bit transitional, but it's mostly dry there, and again pleasantly warm. Again, not a heat wave. We're not drawing the air up from the south and the southeast, just lots of dry and warm weather as we're going through to the start of August. Let's have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies for the next month, and we'll have a look at the mid-latitude and tropical view. So the British Isles is just here in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you look at it. Reminder of a 500 millibar height anomaly for the next week. This takes us again from the 14th, 21st of July. Above average heights to our southwest, below average heights up to the north and northwest, sending the jet stream through like that. So the precipitation anomaly shows that the north and west is a little bit more unsettled. Above average rainfall for Scotland, although it's drier for England and Wales in the week ahead, coming out drier than average there. The temperature anomaly is very close to average, might be ever so slightly, if you squint at the screen close enough, might be ever so slightly on the cooler than average side. But there isn't much in it, let's say close to average temperatures for the week ahead. We move through to week 2, again 21st to 28th of July, and the Azores high is building into the UK, although still just about centred to our west. You expect this to be a drier week, and indeed that's what the model is showing, drier than average precipitation anomalies there through to the final week of July, with temperature anomalies lifting up a little bit. They're still close to average, but in the south probably going ever so slightly warmer than average. So that's a warm and dry end to July. And then we move through to weeks 3 and 4, which takes us from the 28th of July through to the 18th of August. And we find, again, above average heights are out in the Atlantic and extending into the UK. Jet streams going off to the north as well, so it's turning, or it's staying mostly dry and warm, you would have thought, through to the start of August, or the first half of August. The precipitation anomaly is coming out drier than average for those 2 weeks. Temperatures, they're coming out average to a little bit warmer than average as we go through to the early part of August. So essentially we're looking at a lot of dry and warm weather, never overly hot if the JMA is right, because the high pressure is always centered slightly to our west, which always keeps an Atlantic influence with the air, which at this time of year, that's why it's going to be cooler than a continental influence. Nevertheless, it's high pressure close to the country through the last stages of July and the start of August, which will bring us a lot of warm and dry weather. Let's have a look at CFS V2 and compare. So again, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period taking us from today, the 14th, through to the 20th of July. We've got above average heights down to our south and southwest, below average heights up to the northwest, doing something a bit like that with jet stream. It's perfect agreement really between the two models, and it means that for southern parts of the country, a lot of dry weather coming up, always a bit more unsettled up to the north and west. We go through to week 2, and then we see a deviation between the two models. This is week 2, 500 millibar height anomaly. It's taking us from the 21st to the 27th of July. Now in this week, final week of July, the JMA has the high pressure centering to the west, or just to the west of us. The CFS, crucially, is placing that high pressure to our east and to our northeast. So it's actually being centered across some parts of Scandinavia, and that means we're drawing in the wind not from the westerly direction, but from an east-southeasterly direction. Obviously, that's going to be much hotter. It's coming in off the continental landmass. So that's a heat wave that the CFS is seeing there for the final week of July. Then we go through to week 3. This is from the 28th of July through to the 3rd of August. And again, the heat wave continues. Above average heights are very close, over the UK really, and slightly to our east. It means that again, we're bringing the wind in from an easterly or southeasterly direction, and that's going to be hot. It's dragging in hot winds from the east. That could be a 2-week heat wave there that the CFS is seeing from the latter stages of July through to the early part of August. That could be really hot with those easterly winds. And then we go through finally to week 4, which is the 4th through to the 10th of August. Slight repositioning of the ridge. It's centering more towards the north of Scotland. So it still is bringing wind in from a kind of an easterly direction, but it's more northeasterly, if anything. And I would have thought, it doesn't really show, but I would have thought we've probably got low pressure forming to the south of this ridge that may be threatening thunderstorms and thundery rain, particularly to the southern part of the country. So my interpretation of that might be a little bit cooler, and it might be turning slightly more unsettled, particularly so for the south. Even so, it's very different to what the JMA is doing, and the CFS definitely implying that we're in some really hot weather there for the final stages of July and into early August. Temperature anomalies, so for week 1, the 14th, 20th of July, a little bit warmer than average in the week ahead. Not a big deviation, but certainly on the warm and average side. And then we've got those hot easterly winds coming in for week 2, which is the 21st, 27th of July. So it turns significantly hotter than average, not just for the UK, but for many parts of Europe as well. The anomaly is actually somewhere around 2 to 3 degrees across most parts of Europe there, which is going to be really hot at the end of July. We go through to the 28th of July to the 3rd of August. Again, very significantly hotter than average, not just for the UK, but again for many parts of Europe. So that's a 2-week heat wave that CFS is seeing there for the final week of July and just into the first sort of days of August. And then finally, we round it all off with week 4, which is the 4th to the 10th of August, and still very significantly hotter than average, or warmer than average for that week. Although I do think we're probably, based on the height anomaly, probably bringing in slightly more of a northeasterly influence to the wind, so that probably would begin to lower the temperatures. You see, but across many parts of Europe, those temperatures are beginning to lower and go closer towards average. So possibly a little bit cooler, but even so, still very warm, if not hot, as we go through to week 4. The precipitation anomalies finally, the coming week looks a little bit drier than average, especially so for England and Wales. The week 2 precipitation anomaly looks very significantly drier than average for the north, maybe hinting at the chance of some thunder down in the south, a little bit wetter than average, indicated across the Bay of Biscay and also over here across Central Europe. So hot and potentially thunderstorms threatening the south for the final full week of July. 28th of July to the 3rd of August, a week 3 precipitation anomaly, just coming out more or less drier than average, so hot and dry for the last days of July, the first days of August. And then we're reverting to average in week 4, the 4th to the 10th of July, which it's probably because the model is beginning to lose the signal there for precipitation, but I would have thought still a fair amount of dry weather, maybe some thundery rain threatening the south and the southeast. Very different between these two models for the positioning of the ridge, and that's the important factor. If the JMA is right, yes, we are going to have a lot of dry weather in the month ahead, but never overly hot, because the high pressure is centred just to the west, have more of an Atlantic influence to the wind, and just very pleasantly warm and nice weather. If the CFS is right, it's much hotter. So as we go through to the last full week of July and into the early days of August, that could well be our hottest part of the year and of the summer. Really hot easterly winds being signalled, temperatures certainly into below 30 Celsius, if this is right, maybe higher. That just looks very hot there for the final days of July into early August, before maybe starting to cool down a little bit as we get through into further into the early part of August. So a big difference between the two models this morning in terms of where they want to place that ridge, and consequently what the temperatures are going to be doing for the final stages of July and early August. I have to wait and see which one is right. I think it's probably 50-50 between the two. If you don't like hot weather, then root for the JMA. If you want it to have, if you want to have a real heat wave, then root for the CFS. We'll let battle commence and see which one turns out to be correct. Right, that's all for now. Tomorrow I've got weekend forecast, and also talking of CFS, got the CFS 6 months look ahead just for fun coming up tomorrow. So come back for those updates. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.